What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out the brand new Souten archetype that just got revealed coming out of Phantom Rage. So this is a warrior fusion based archetype that also can put out a lot of tokens in a turn, which is interesting because I kind of thought that we learned during the Vrains era that these mass producing cards or these mass token producing cards are generally bad, but Konami keeps on making them. So, I guess we're just going to have more token production in the game. Anyways, let's go ahead and break these guys down because we got a bunch of cards to talk about, including their main monster, which kind of looks like Yasuo from League of Legends. Anyways, he is Yuubi of the Souten Fist, level 4 light warrior monster, 1800 attack, 1000 defense. Both effects are hard once per turn. First effect says you can target one Souten monster you control. It can be itself, by the way. Destroy it, and if you do, add one Souten spell from your deck to your hand. If a face-up, this is the second effect. If a face-up Souten fusion monster or monsters you control that was fusion summoned using an effect monster or monsters is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, and this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. Okay, so this is kind of supposed to be like the startup card for the archetype. I mean, I'm guessing you're just gonna normal summon this, have it pop itself, get a spell card, and then go ahead and try to fusion summon. Fusion summoning is actually quite easy in this deck because of the token production. We'll talk about that a little later, but it is kind of nice to know when you have your fusions on board, if your opponent kills them pretty much in any way, you basically just get to add this guy back to the hand. So it's perfectly fine that, he kind of gives himself up to search something else because you're probably going to end up getting him back to your hand for free anyways. Next up we have Koukoku of the the Souten Kicks. This is a level 3 warrior monster, also light attribute, 800 attack and 2000 defense. Both effects are hard once per turn. Second effect, if a face-up Souten monster you control, except for itself, is destroyed by battle or card effect during your opponent's turn, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can apply this effect. Destroy one Souten monster you control. That can also include itself. And if you do special summon a one Souten fusion monster from your extra deck. Second effect, if this card is normal / special summon, you can add one Souten Trap from your deck to your hand. Okay, so this is another card that basically, kind of searches something. The only difference with this card is it doesn't have to destroy itself. Basically, anytime this card hits the field, it's going to be able to get you one of the Souten Trap cards from your deck. So, who doesn't like a free +1 on summon? I'm also liking the whole fact that it can blow itself up and basically it just summons one of the fusion monsters from the extra deck for free. Very similarly to, I guess, how the Plunder Patrol works. You're not actually fusion summoning, you're just summoning the monsters from the extra deck. So it seems like a very cool card. And this archetype seems to just have a lot of protection for its monsters on field. Like if you were running these monsters over or you're destroying them with card effects, it seems like your opponent's always going to have something that they respond with. The first fusion monster is Gaia of the Souten Fist, level 6 light warrior monster. It's a fusion, of course. 2100, 1500 is the stat line. Its materials are 2 Souten monsters. We just talked about 2 Souten monsters, so not that difficult to make. And your first effect is a hard once per turn. If this card is special summon, you can target one attack position monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Also, this card cannot attack directly for the rest of this turn. Second effect, while you control a Souten fusion monster that was fusion summoned using an effect monster or monsters as material, Souten fusion monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. Okay, so this serves as basically like a disruption, potentially during your opponent's turn, if you do happen to summon it from Koukoku, because basically, like, if you're using Koukoku and you're just summoning your Gaia from your extra deck, you're not technically fusion summoning it, but who cares? The first effect doesn't say it has to be fusion summoned, it just says it has to be special summoned, and you can pop a monster on your opponent's side of the field. Chances are they're gonna have something in attack position. I mean, link monsters can't even go into defense position, so I definitely do like that. The second effect, where you're gaining 300 attack and defense, I mean, to me, that's icing on the cake. You're not gonna get that because you know, if you're not going to get that if this card is infusion summoned, but mainly I just want the destruction effect. And obviously, if I'm summoning it during my turn, a nice little pop against my opponent's monsters is good as well. We have Gaiun of the Souten Kicks. This is a level 5 light warrior fusion monster, 1700 attack, 2100 defense. Also requires 2 Souten monsters to summon. And it says the second effect is a hard once per turn. First effect, if a Souten fusion monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy one other Souten monster you control instead. Second effect, during your main phase, if you control a Souten fusion monster that was fusion summoned using an effect monster or monsters as material. Quick effect, you can target one face-up monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, negate its effects until the end of the turn. This one is okay. I'm not sure that I like this card as much as the other one, because the other one is just simple spot removal the second that it's summoned. This card gives you protection, but it's also it's not for battle. It's only for card effects, and it does come at the cost of your other Souten monsters. The main thing is the disruption effect. It seems okay. I mean, it can stop one of your opponent's extra deck monsters, like it can negate that monster's effect, which is nice, but this card's only 1700 attack and 2100 defense. What's stopping your opponent from just running this guy over, you know, in battle? It just feels like it's kind of weak, in my opinion. Maybe if it negated all monster effects, like if it could just negate any face-up monster your opponent controlled, like that would be a little better, because if you do cheat around summoning this, you know, with the main deck dude's effect, you're not going to be able to actually get this effect. Like, this card has to be fusion summoned to get that. So this is not one that I'm as big of a fan of. It feels way more situational than the last fusion. Anyways, the third fusion is Kongou, Heavenly General of the Souten. It's a level 8 light warrior, and it just looks like the boss monster of the archetype. Almost looks like a cover card, to be honest. 3000 attack, 1700 defense. Now this one specifically requires Yuubi of the Souten Fist plus 2 more Souten monsters, so it's 3 materials overall. And the third effect is a hard once per turn. First effect, if this card attacks or is attacked, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. Second effect, at the end of the damage calculation, if this card attacked, you can return one monster your opponent controls to the hand. Third effect, when a spell / trap or effect that targets this card on the field is activated and you control 2 or more fusion monsters, quick effect, you can negate its activation. Okay, I actually wish that the third effect didn't have such specific requirements. I mean, getting targeting protection basically, like, that's pretty cool. However, you do have to have like multiple, you know, Souten fusion monsters on the field. If this guy is just out there on the field dolo, then it's just not going to work. That honestly feels like it should have been better. Maybe Konami just should have made this card immune to targeting overall. I like the whole, you know, when it attacks, you get to bounce one of your opponent's monsters, because generally speaking, at 3000 attack, you should be able to run one of your opponent's monsters over and then just bounce another monster. So getting rid of 2 monsters in one turn is legitimate. And I was kind of thinking maybe this deck could run Honest, since the entire archetype is light based, and that might be an option because the first effect kind of covers it. It means your opponent can't respond, they can't use any battle phase tricks, they can't use any traps or effects or any weird shenanigans like that, and Honest could make it so, you know, you might be able to do massive damage against your opponent. Anyways, to the spells and traps in this archetype, we have the token producing card. This is Souten Calling, which basically makes the entire archetype run. It's a normal spell that's a hard once per turn. It says discard 1 card, and if you do, special summon as many Souten spirit tokens, which are light, they are warriors, level 2, 0 attack, 0 defense, as possible to your field. Then you can apply the following effect up to 2 times. I'm always wary of cards that say as many as possible, because that's how you end up with things like Rekindling and Soul Charge, etc., etc. So once you resolve this, you can resolve this effect up to twice. You can fusion summon 1 Souten fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. For the rest of this turn, you cannot tribute tokens you control or special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters. During your end phase, destroy the tokens you control. Okay, so this card is pretty nuts because basically, yes, it's technically a neg one because you have to discard, but it gives you like 5 tokens, and then you get the fusion summon twice using the tokens that you have on field. So basically, you get to drop 2 fusion monsters in a turn, and if you're going for the simple spot removal guy, you get to pop a monster on your opponent's side of the field to try to break even disruption, basically. And in addition to that, it also lets you use your hand, which is kind of nuts. Like, this is definitely the playmaker of the card. Like, run 3 copies of this because this is the main way you're gonna fusion summon. It's weird it's not a fusion spell card, right? But it's how this deck fusion summons. Anyways, we have 2 as 1. This is a field spell, and it has a hard once per turn on its activation. It says the second effect is also a hard once per turn. The first effect says when this card is activated, you can add 1 Souten monster from your deck to your hand. Second effect, if you control a Souten effect monster, you can special summon 1 Souten spirit token, which is the same type of token as we just talked about. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except fusion monsters. All right. This card's another amazing piece of support. Basically, it's another field spell Rhoda, which basically every archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh has. And then on top of that, if you have an effect monster, you just get a token for free. So now you're not completely reliant on you know, the other card that we just talked about for getting those tokens out. You're not completely reliant on Souten calling. I mean, I like getting free tokens every single turn for free. Why not? Like, who doesn't, honestly? We've got a quick play spell. This is Souten Exorcism. That is a hard once per turn. It says target 1 Souten monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. Destroy them. Then if you destroyed a Souten fusion monster you controlled, you can apply one of these effects. So you either get to draw 1 card or you get to banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. I'm guessing during your turn, you're probably going to want to draw, and during your opponent's turn, banishing from the graveyard could be technically a disruption. This feels pretty nice, and keep in mind, you don't always have to destroy one of your like fusion monsters. You can destroy a token because the field spell gives you a token, and that token doesn't get destroyed during the end phase. So if you just have a token on the field and it's not doing anything, you know, pop the damn token, pop one of your opponent's cards, and just call it a day. Use that as your disruption. But if you do pop one of your fusion monsters, basically they do replace themselves. So that's not bad. I think this is like a pretty good disruption card in my opinion. If you're constantly getting those free tokens, like, you know, you might as well put them to work. We have the traps now. This is Souten Returns, normal trap with a hard once per turn. Target 1 Souten monster in your graveyard, special summon it. If you special summon a monster with an original level that is 4 or less, you can fusion summon or you can special summon 1 Souten spirit token. Okay, so basically, this is like a little better Call of the Haunted for the archetype. I don't think this needed to be a hard once per turn, honestly. Like, I kind of get it. It can summon the fusion monsters back, and that's cool because some of them do have disruption built into them. But getting the token, I mean, I guess it's nice. I would have maybe liked to see something better because you already have so many ways to produce tokens in this deck. But I guess it's not terrible setup. Like, if you use the field spell and you had to use that token for something else, using this Call of the Haunted, getting a monster back and getting a token, maybe you can use the token for, you know, disruption. Maybe you can use it with exorcism or something like that. Anyways, the final piece of support is another trap card. And this trap card is Souten's Duty. It's a trap card that is a hard once per turn. During your main phase, banish 1 Souten spell / trap from your grave, except another copy of Duty. This card's effect becomes that card's effect when it activates. You know what? This is interesting because I think this is like Diamond Dude. I don't think that you actually pay cost since you're just copying the effect. This means that you should technically be able to use Souten's Calling without discarding, you know, as a cost, which means you could just get those 4 or 5 tokens or whatever, and then be able to fusion summon multiple times during a turn. This archetype seems pretty neat. I'm not sure if it's going to be competitive because I don't know if it has quite enough disruption or offense, but I do think that it is definitely cool, and I want to see exactly where Konami is going to go with this. I like the concept of it. I like the concept of fusion summoning, using tokens, and using tokens to kind of disrupt your opponent, using tokens that don't have anything to do with link summoning, I guess I should say. Anyways, whatever you guys think of the Souten, you leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.